Sarah never expected her friend Emily's bachelorette weekend to be anything more than fun food. Bright decorations and a few harmless surprises. She arrived in San Diego carrying a small suitcase, a soft smile, and a heart that had been trying to stay quiet for years. She told herself she was ready for a weekend of laughter with friends. She didn't know the night would bring back someone she had quietly loved and quietly lost. The beach house Emily rented looked like something from a magazine. White walls, blue windows, a huge porch facing the ocean. Inside, balloons floated near the ceiling and the scent of vanilla candles filled the air. Everyone rushed to hug Emily, who was glowing with excitement. She wore a dress covered in tiny pearls, her hair curled beautifully, her eyes bright with joy. Sarah hugged her too, careful not to get emotional, even though she felt a mix of pride, happiness, and something deeper she didn't want to name. The girls placed snacks on the counter, tied ribbons on chairs, and helped Emily fix decorations. She kept adjusting even though everything already looked perfect. Music played softly from a speaker, giving the house a warm, lively mood. But beneath all the excitement, Sarah felt a tiny pull inside her, a reminder of something unfinished. Emily noticed. She always did. She walked over, touching Sarah's arm gently. "You okay?" "You seem quiet," she said with a knowing smile. "I'm good. Just tired from the travel," Sarah replied. Forcing a smile that didn't match her eyes, Emily studied her for a second, then nudged her playfully. "Tonight is going to be fun. I promise. And maybe a little surprising." Sarah didn't think much of it. Emily loved surprises. She probably had a silly game planned or some dramatic entrance from another friend. No big deal. By sunset, everyone changed into their evening outfits, simple dresses with soft colors. Sarah chose a light lavender dress that made her feel calm. She tied her hair in a loose bun, letting a few strands frame her face. When she stepped out of the room, her friends cheered, complimenting her. She laughed and let the energy carry her forward. The group took an Uber to a rooftop lounge near the ocean. The place had string lights hanging above, soft music playing, and tables arranged so guests could watch the waves from up high. It wasn't wild or chaotic, it was elegant.com. And perfect for a bride who wanted joy without drama. As they walked in, Emily clapped her hands dramatically. "Everyone, someone special is joining us tonight." Sarah assumed it was an old college friend of Emily's. Maybe someone from her hometown. She didn't even turn around right away. But the moment she did, the world seemed to pause for a breath. Daniel walked through the door. Sarah's heart kicked hard in her chest. Her breath caught in her throat before she could stop it. Daniel, her old friend. The man she had once trusted more than anyone. The one she had almost confessed her feelings 2 years ago, but didn't, was standing right in front of her. He wore a simple button-down shirt, sleeves rolled up, looking both familiar and different in a way she couldn't describe. His soft brown hair fell slightly over his forehead, and his warm eyes searched the room until they found hers. He smiled, and everything inside her seemed to warm and freeze at the same time. "Sarah," he said quietly, like a gentle memory coming back to life. "Hi," she whispered, trying not to show how shocked she was. Emily stepped beside her, grinning like she had planned the reunion for months. "Told you tonight would be surprising," she whispered into Sarah's ear. Sarah wanted to tease her back, but she couldn't. She was too busy dealing with the sudden rush of emotions she thought she had buried. Memories of late-night talks in college, long drives, inside jokes. And that almost moment when he touched her hand and hesitated. Everything returned before she could stop it. Daniel approached slowly, giving her space almost as if he wasn't sure she wanted him there. "It's good to see you," he said softly. "You too," she replied, though her voice felt too small for how large the moment felt. The group took their seats around a long table, and somehow Daniel ended up beside Sarah. Emily pretended it was random, but Sarah knew better. Emily had always been a little too good at bringing people together. They ordered mocktails, shared appetizers, and laughed at old stories. The energy was bright, fast, and full of celebration. Everyone was excited about Emily's wedding coming in just a few weeks. But Sarah struggled to stay fully present. She could feel Daniel beside her, the warmth of him, the familiarity, the quiet way he paid attention to her even when she wasn't talking. He asked her about her job, her move to Seattle, her family. His voice was calm and warm, and whenever he listened, he made her feel like nothing else in the world mattered. She remembered that about him. She remembered too much at one point as the group cheered over a silly game. Daniel leaned a little closer. "I'm really glad Emily invited me," he said. Sarah turned to him, unsure what to say. "Yeah, it's been a long time." "It has," he said with a small smile. "And there's something I've been wanting to tell you." Her heart sped up instantly. She wanted to ask what he meant, but just as she opened her mouth, Emily jumped up from her seat. "Everyone, time to go to the surprise location," she announced, cutting through the moment like a sharp breeze. The girls cheered again, already grabbing their bags and finishing their drinks. The rooftop lights twinkled above them as they hurried toward the elevators. But Sarah stood frozen for a moment, staring at Daniel. What did he want to tell her? Was it something simple? Something deep? Something she had tried not to hope for? Daniel looked like he wanted to say more, but the group was already leaving, pulling them both toward the next destination. They walked behind the others, close enough that their shoulders brushed lightly every few steps. Sarah felt aware of every small touch. They reached the ground floor and stepped into the cool night breeze. The city lights reflected off Daniel's face, giving him a soft, gentle look she wasn't prepared for. He kept glancing at her like he was searching for the right moment. But the group was too loud, too excited, too fast. "Come on," Emily called from ahead. "The next place is perfect." Sarah wanted to ask Daniel again about what he'd meant earlier, but the chance was gone. She had to follow the group. The surprise location waited. As they walked down the sidewalk, Sarah felt a strange mix of excitement and fear. She had prepared for a weekend of celebration, not a reunion with the only man who had ever made her heart feel both safe and alive. Emily kept glancing back at her with a secretive smile, as if she knew exactly what was happening inside Sarah's mind. Maybe she did. Emily always had a way of seeing beneath the surface. Daniel stayed close behind Sarah, but neither of them spoke. There was too much unsaid, too much waiting between them. The night felt like it was holding its breath. Sarah didn't know whether to run from the feeling or run toward it. She didn't know whether Daniel's unfinished words were a spark of something, ain't new, or just a shadow from the past. But she did know one thing. Whatever Daniel wanted to tell her had the power to change everything she believed about their story. And the night was just beginning. The private beach where Emily had led them glowed softly in the night. Lanterns hung from posts and trees, casting golden light on the sand. The ocean waves whispered gently, breaking softly on the shore. Sarah stepped onto the sand, feeling the cool grains under her feet. Everything about this place felt magical, like a scene from a storybook. And Emily's Bachelorette surprises seemed to have reached a level even Sarah couldn't have imagined. Yet, despite the beauty and the laughter of friends around her, all Sarah could think about was Daniel. He had stayed a few steps behind her, quiet, calm, and somehow exactly where he should have been all along. The air between them carried a tension that neither of them had addressed yet. Their past had been unspoken, and seeing him now stirred feelings Sarah had tried hard to ignore for years. She felt her heart flutter when he finally approached her. "I didn't mean to make things awkward earlier," he said softly. His voice had that same comforting tone that had always made her feel safe. "You didn't." Sarah replied, keeping her voice even, though it was difficult to mask the way her chest tightened. "You just looked like you wanted to say something." Daniel paused, glancing at the soft waves crashing nearby. "I did, and I still do." Sarah felt a shiver run through her. Her stomach twisted in a mix of fear, hope, and disbelief. She had spent so many years convincing herself that Daniel was a memory, someone to care about only in thought, not in life. Yet here he was, standing beside her, saying the words she had never expected to hear again, before he could continue. Emily's laughter rang out from where the group was setting up a small bonfire. "Sarah, come help me take photos," she called. Sarah hesitated, torn. The Bachelorette weekend was supposed to be about joy and celebration, but all she could think about was Daniel. She looked at him, unsure if she should leave the moment behind. "I'll be right back," she whispered. Daniel nodded, giving her a soft, patient smile. "I'll wait." They rejoined the group, where blankets were spread out on the sand and a small fire crackled, sending a warm glow over everyone. Sarah laughed with the girls, posed for pictures, and tried to stay immersed in the excitement. But every time she looked at Daniel, she felt like the rest of the world faded. The laughter, the music. Even the ocean seemed distant compared to the pull between them. As the night deepened, Emily suggested they roast marshmallows. The group moved closer to the fire, chatting, teasing, and taking turns telling stories about the bride. Sarah felt a moment of quiet inside her chest when she realized that she and Daniel hadn't spoken a word to each other since they rejoined the group. The anticipation was almost unbearable. She wanted to hear what he had meant to say, but she didn't want to steal the night's fun from Emily or the others. Finally, as everyone got distracted by a story Emily was telling, Daniel leaned toward her. "Can we talk for a minute?" he asked quietly. Sarah nodded, heart racing. They walked a few steps away from the fire, down closer to the shoreline where the waves lapped gently at the sand. The sound was calming, a perfect backdrop for the conversation she had been waiting for all evening. Sarah looked at him, her chest tight, her mind spinning. "Okay, what did you want to tell me?" she asked softly. Daniel hesitated, then met her gaze. "I spent years thinking about what I should have said back then," he began. "I should have told you that I cared about you, more than a friend should." Her heart skipped a beat. She could feel the weight of the years between them in those words. All the time when they had been close, but never fully honest. "Daniel," she whispered, unsure if words would come out. "I'm not here to disturb your life," he added quickly, noticing her pause. I wanted to be honest finally. Seeing you tonight reminded me of everything I almost lost." Sarah felt tears threaten her eyes. The truth was, she had felt the same way, but she had buried it, thinking it was too late. Thinking that life had moved on without him. And yet now, standing here with him, all the careful walls she had built felt fragile. "I cared too," she admitted, her voice shaking slightly. "I just never knew if you felt the same." Daniel smiled softly, a gentle warmth in his eyes. "I did. I still do. But I didn't want to make things complicated. You're about to celebrate Emily's wedding. I don't want to interfere." "You're not interfering," Sarah said firmly, taking a small step closer. "You're being honest. That's all I ever wanted." They stood silently for a moment, letting the waves and the fire and the soft glow of lanterns fill the space around them. The world seemed to shrink until it was just the two of them. Two hearts finding each other again after years of distance. Then Emily's voice called out again, "Hey, you two, come back here. We're telling stories about the bride." Sarah looked at Daniel, a soft laugh escaping her lips. "Looks like we have to join them." He gave her a hopeful smile. "We don't have to figure everything out tonight," he said, "but maybe this weekend is giving us a second chance." Sarah felt something lift in her chest, a mix of hope, relief, and anticipation. "Maybe it is," she whispered. They walked back toward the fire together, not holding hands yet, but close enough that their shoulders brushed occasionally. Each brush sent a flutter through her chest. A reminder that some connections never truly fade. Back at the fire, the group was fully immersed in laughter and stories. Emily was glowing, everyone else chatting and eating, enjoying the warmth of the night. Sarah felt the comfort of being with her friends, the joy of celebration, and the quiet thrill of the unspoken bond with Daniel beside her. He leaned slightly toward her and whispered, "I've missed this. Missed us." Sarah's smile was soft but full of meaning. "Me too," she said. They didn't need to define what would happen next. The night was theirs to live, a bridge between the past and the future, full of possibilities. Every glance, every small smile, every quiet word was a promise of more. As the fire crackled, Emily started another game, and the girls joined in, teasing, laughing, and making memories. Sarah stayed close to Daniel, moving with the group, but never letting the space between them grow too large. The night was alive, vibrant, and full of gentle magic. Eventually, the group sat back on the blankets, watching the waves, roasting marshmallows, and sharing stories. The air was cool but comforting, filled with the scent of salt water and firewood. Sarah and Daniel remained side by side, letting the silence speak in ways words never could. Daniel glanced at her, his expression soft. "No matter what happens," he said quietly, "I'm glad tonight brought us back together." Sarah nodded, feeling the truth in every word. "Me too." The night stretched on, full of laughter, gentle touches, and quiet understanding. Sarah realized that sometimes the moments that mattered most were not the loud, dramatic ones, but the soft, simple ones, the shared smiles, the small confessions, the unspoken promise of new beginnings. The Bachelorette weekend continued with fun and celebration. But for Sarah, the highlight wasn't the games, the photos, or even the fire. It was this night, this moment with Daniel, where the past and present merged, where hearts were honest, and where the future seemed full of quiet, glowing hope. As the stars reflected on the ocean and the friends finally settled down for the night, Sarah felt a peace she hadn't known in years. She didn't know what would happen after this weekend, but she knew one thing for certain. She had been given a second chance, not just with Daniel, but with herself, to embrace feelings she had long denied, and to allow love, patience, and honesty to guide her next steps. The soft ocean breeze brushed her face. The firelight warmed her back. And Daniel's presence beside her made her feel like the night had been waiting for them all along. For the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to hope, and maybe, just maybe, this bachelorette party wasn't just about Emily's wedding. It was about rediscovering a connection that had never truly faded, about finding the courage to feel again, and about stepping into a future where anything seemed possible. Sarah smiled at Daniel, and he smiled back, the kind of smile that spoke without words. The night was theirs, and for now that was enough. The waves kept rolling in. The lanterns flickered gently, and Sarah knew that life, like the ocean, had a way of returning things thought lost. And this time, she wasn't letting it slip away.